but there's a gap there of a lot. And that's been happening for years. And so in 1975, the average cost of a house was 2.5 times the average income of an American.
Okay.
2.5 times, right?
Yeah.
So you earn $100,000, it's 2.5 times that. Yeah. Not that bad.
250,000.
Today it's like 8 times.
Yeah.
Right? So housing is now unachievable for many Americans. And in fact, more than 25% of Gen Xers, I think that's the right gen, one of the gens.
Yeah.
25% believe that they will never own a house and never build equity. Well, that changes your mindset fundamentally, right? Why not eat, drink, and be merry and go out and spend $30 on a cocktail? Because what are you saving for?
You're paying
You're
a
not
mortgage.
saving for anything.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You're not saving for a down payment because you don't think you'll ever get there, right? And then, of course, on the political side, you have the Black Rocks and the State Streets that are buying up housing all over the country and then renting it to people because they don't want them to build equity because the middle class is dangerous to the controlling class.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Terrifying.
More Oliver Anthony, please.
And then one of the other things that happened in 2008, because the market crashed and people stopped building for a little bit, the trades just got decimated. So since 2008, no one's been going into the trades. Very little people have been going into the trades. And what happened, one of the reasons why we see housing prices where they're at is that when COVID hit and there was so much demand on labor in the trades, for the first time, trades didn't adjust their pricing since 2008. And for the first time, they're like, "Oh wow, we're going to adjust their pricing. We're going to adjust." And they just, went up,
charge whatever I want,
went up 50%. And people, I think, are really mad about why don't you build more affordable housing and that type of thing. The carpenters and plumbers aren't going to be changing their prices. Their prices are set now. It's going to take a long time until trades get built back up and competition begins for those prices start going down, and material prices have really balanced out. So I don't see a great reset in housing prices coming anytime soon.
So you're saying though that the skyrocketing housing prices are largely due to scarcity.
Correct.
In number of houses that are available because they weren't being built, and because you have scarcity in terms of skilled workers.
Knowledge.
Being able to do the plumbing, do the electricity, do the framing, do the roofing.
Well, and then, 2020, COVID hit. And then they told everyone to stop working. Right. So he stopped housing production, and they stopped. You remember cost of building prices went
Yeah.
Way up. There's a stigma around these blue collar jobs, right?
Sure.
People don't want to go into plumbing or framing or and those are great jobs.
Yeah.
Those are
and
really
while
good
we're
jobs.
at MZ, that's all we push to the colleges is like do more trades.
We
like,
need welders
need
for
them.
crying out loud.
Yeah.
My wife has said for years that if the pastoring thing doesn't work out, I could become a plumber and I would call it Sump Pump.
Sumter,
I
Sump
got it.
Pump.
See?
It was a joke,
See?
right?
Sump Pump.
Is that a joke?
She's serious.
Is that a joke?
I think she's serious. She's compared what they make to what I'm, and then they're like,
It's pretty good.
Pastor.
I was about to make an
Plumbing.
inappropriate joke and I didn't.
actually we do a lot of the same things.
That's my job on my show. Did not come.
I know.
I made that joke in my head.
We all got there.
Sorry.
No. It's all good. Just finishing this point, I think we got off your original question.
No, it's
But
fine.
just
Finish
finishing
the point.
on
No, go ahead.
Do whatever we want. We have
affordable
market
housing.
Levi's holding us
We
accountable
built
right
an
now.
1,100 square foot house we started in 2020, sold it for $280,000. Pretty affordable at the time. Now, 2 years later, we built the same house. We sold it for $399, and we probably made same, if not less, profit on it.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
That is insane. You said
Wow.
1,100 square foot?
Yeah, so it went up $120,000 in
a
about
trailer.
a year and a half.
Right. With no new value
sure.
to the size of the house or to whatever.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
No,
That's-
and part of this, there's I'm going to give a shout out. There are people at the city of Moscow, even Mayor Betke is a big fan of Edington housing development, and they, regardless of motivations and alignment of incentives, they have worked hard to try and make this thing happen. Like they really have.
Yeah.
That being said, you read Milton Friedman, there is a misalignment of incentives whenever you have government that is large and involved in things, right?
Yes.
No matter how good your intentions are as a city employee, right? That being said, there's a study that says somewhere between 20 and 25% of every house is government regulation and oversight.
Yeah.
Right? Because that just slows things down.
Yep.
And, when you have that slowdown because they don't have the same skin in the game that you do, that costs real money. And so that's part of it. But also, yes, material costs are up, labor costs are up. That's just the cost of a house these days.
Well, and then the other part of this is property taxes. When you guys start your development,
for sure.
Yep.
And then you take this 80-acre piece of property, and then as soon as you start defining the lots, you start getting charged on taxes.
Yep.
And then so you're paying taxes for 6 months, a year, or whatever, while it's being built before you can actually sell the house. I mean, imagine if property taxes are wicked, but this is just absolutely the wickedest part of property taxes. When imagine if you went to Rosar's or the local grocery store, and the milk cartons, the milk was taxed while it was on the shelf.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
While it was on the shelf, and it sat there getting taxed every day until someone bought it.
Right.
And then another tax.
And the way that it works, and I've explained this, a lot of people are involved in the project. Like, okay, so I'm doing 100 houses, and every time you charge me $100,000 more than I was planning to budget for this project, the houses just went up by $1,000. Right? It's simple economics. Right. That's just how it works. And so when you pay
you got to recover
taxes,
those costs.
You got to recover the costs because I don't look good without a shirt on, so I don't want to lose my shirt.
Right. And where you started, you can't help. You're not helping anybody either, right?
No.
Like because you can't do this again.
Right.
And we need you to be able to do this again, so we can have housing, right?
And so the government taxes all this inventory before you sell it.
Right.
As it's sitting on the shelf.
Right.
As each of your lots are sitting on the shelves.
For sure.
How much is it for a lot right now? What's your monthly property taxes on one lot?
Oh, I don't know. We haven't gotten taxed yet. It's going to be this next year.
Yeah.
I will say, just to your point, City of Moscow has been incredible. And even working with the tax assessor's office, I sat down with them and they were very, I would say, generous from their perspective in the sense of negotiating with them.
The tyrants always
They're good people trying to do the right thing.
Yeah. But you asked, what are people wanting to get out of this? And I think there's two approaches. There's one, there's a lot of demand on the market. So you could come out and you could just pump out the same design over and over and over and over again. People are going to buy it because they need to buy it. You're going to make your profit. But I think as Christians going in, and this is more from George Gilder's side of things, the supply side economics.
Right.
One of the things we're trying to do is supply something to the market that doesn't actually exist yet, and trying to tell people this is better and you want this because it's going to enhance your lives. We want to make people's lives better. We want to make it more simple. There's an HOA that takes care of maintenance and stuff, so that you don't have to be doing, you don't have to shovel every single morning when it snows and mow your lawn. There's that's being taken care of you, and I think it frees people up to be more human, do other things. Another Gilder saying is like, humans' best and highest use is being creative. So allowing other people to do that, and then also doing that ourselves as developers, being creative in how we can better people's lives.